She was abandoned by her husband as soon as she found out she was pregnant. In a moment of hope and joy, the pain of rejection hit her relentlessly. He asked for a divorce, and the baby's father refused to take responsibility. Alone, with an uncertain future ahead, she was about to sign the divorce papers, believing her life had completely fallen apart. But then, something unexpected happened. Something that would change everything for her and for the baby. A twist that showed that, even in the toughest situations, there is a chance for a fresh start. And that chance was about to emerge. Now let's dive into this emotional story, but before we do, make sure you're subscribed to the channel, because in the upcoming videos, there will be even more touching stories for you. Mariana was having a peaceful afternoon alone at home when she decided to do something she'd been putting off. She had missed several weeks of her period and thought it might be time to take a pregnancy test. With a mix of anxiety and curiosity, she went to the pharmacy and bought the test. Coming back home and performing the procedure seemed simple, but the sensation in her chest was anything but calm. After taking the test and waiting through the interminable minutes, Mariana's heart raced. Finally, the result appeared. Positive. Mariana was in shock. She had always dreamed of being a mother, but now, at that moment, the dream seemed surreal. It was real. She was pregnant. Emotions swirled within her, but something deep and profound took hold inside her. A tiny being was growing there, inside her body, and she didn't know what to do with all the newness. The feeling of happiness soon turned into a whirlwind of questions and doubts. Was she ready? And more importantly, how would her husband, Eduardo, react? She knew Eduardo had never shown much enthusiasm about the idea of having kids. Though he was a good man, he always seemed more focused on work, travel, and his own ambitions. But even so, Mariana felt like this moment should be special for both of them. She imagined how it would be when she told him the news. She hoped for a surprised reaction, maybe even a smile. She was eager to see the happiness in Eduardo's eyes, as she'd always dreamed. That evening, she prepared dinner with more care than usual, trying to hide the anxiety consuming her. When Eduardo arrived home, she greeted him with a nervous smile. They sat down at the table and started talking, but Mariana could barely concentrate on his words. Her heart was pounding so hard she felt her anxiety growing with every second. After a few minutes, she finally decided to share. "I have some news, big news," she said with a calm tone, trying to keep it together. Eduardo looked at her, curious. "What is it, love?" Mariana took a deep breath and with a sparkle in her eyes said, "I'm pregnant, Eduardo." Eduardo fell silent for a few seconds, as if his words had been swallowed by surprise. Mariana's smile slowly faded as he continued in silence, staring down at his plate. What was supposed to be a moment of happiness and celebration quickly turned into a heavy cloud of uncertainty. He finally looked up at her, but didn't seem happy. His expression was serious, distant. There wasn't a joyful smile or even a simple gesture of affection. Mariana realized that instead of support, there was resistance in his look. She felt as though the room had grown colder, and the weight in the air made everything harder. It was as though, instead of seeing Mariana's happiness, Eduardo was absorbing the news with a feeling of disappointment. "Eduardo, I don't know if I'm ready for this," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "I wasn't planning on becoming a father now. It's not the right time, and you know that." Mariana's heart tightened. She had expected Eduardo not to be as enthusiastic as she was, but this was different. It was a silent rejection. A rejection that cut her joy and made her doubt her own emotions. Eduardo's words kept ringing in her mind. "It's not the right time." She tried to explain. She wanted him to understand how much this meant to her. She tried to talk about the joy of motherhood, about how the baby was a blessing, but with every word, she felt like he was pulling away more and more. He seemed distant, as though the news had created a chasm between them. Something she couldn't cross. When Mariana saw Eduardo's expression, she knew something was seriously wrong. He wasn't happy, he was worried, and worse, he didn't seem to see the beauty in it all. The silence between them stretched, and before she could process what was happening, Eduardo stood up, as though the conversation had ended. "I need some time, Mariana. I don't know what to do with this." And so that night, Mariana was left alone with the news. She didn't have the strength to hold back the tears that threatened to fall. Her world, which had seemed so clear and full of possibilities, felt like it was crumbling around her. The person she had hoped to celebrate this moment with, the man she loved, now seemed distant and disinterested. She didn't know how things would unfold, but one thing was clear. The road ahead would be much more challenging than she had imagined. She, alone, would have to face the challenges that came, but in her heart, she knew the baby she carried was the reason she would keep going, even amidst so much fear and uncertainty. Is this story getting emotional? Leave a comment and let us know what you think. Don't worry, the story continues. In the days following that painful conversation, Mariana tried to find answers to what was happening. She was still in shock from Eduardo's reaction, unable to understand how he could, in some way, not see what she saw. A future full of promises, a new life about to begin. She dedicated herself to caring for herself and the baby, but at the same time, she found herself constantly thinking about what Eduardo had said. He pressured her to make decisions, but it wasn't positive pressure. It was pressure that made her feel small, as if she were making an irreparable mistake by continuing with the pregnancy. That week, he began to talk more about his concerns. The wrong time, the lack of stability, the plans he had for the future. All of this seemed more important to him than the new life forming inside of Mariana. He started suggesting more insistently that she consider terminating the pregnancy, that maybe it would be best for both of them. Every time he said something like that, Mariana's heart broke a little more. She didn't want to hear those words. She had already made the decision to continue with the pregnancy, regardless of everything, but Eduardo's words kept echoing in her mind. He seemed distant, so distant from her and the baby. It was an internal conflict. Mariana loved Eduardo, but she knew her life was about to change, and she couldn't go back. The decision was made, but Eduardo's pressure, his words, made her feel even more alone. She felt as if he not only rejected her, but also the life she carried, and that hurt her deeply. One afternoon, while she was trying to get organized to leave, Eduardo surprised her. He came into the house with a serious and tense look, something Mariana already knew all too well. He seemed to be preparing for something, but she didn't know what. He looked her directly in the eyes and said, with a coldness that pierced her heart, "Mariana, I can't handle this anymore. I can't continue in this relationship. I don't want to be a father. And honestly, I don't know if I can continue here with you." Mariana froze. His words hit her hard, as if she had been run over. He was abandoning her at the moment she needed him the most. How could someone walk away like that, so abruptly, when life was about to change so significantly? He didn't give her space for explanations, nor did he even try to understand what she was going through. He just walked out the door and left, leaving Mariana alone. She stood motionless, not knowing what to do with that whirlwind of emotions. How could he act like this? How could she, who loved that man, be abandoned so coldly and without pity? In the following days, the emptiness she felt seemed to grow with every passing second. Every corner of the house reminded her of Eduardo. But at the same time, the baby inside her belly, her Lua, was the only reason she still held herself together. Eduardo's abandonment was a deep pain, but the love she felt for the little life growing inside her made her persevere. She knew she could no longer count on him, and as difficult as it was, she would have to learn to move forward, alone. Even if she didn't know how, she knew she had to do what was best for her daughter, for Lua. The weight of being a mother was already on her shoulders, but she didn't let it break her. The following weeks were a whirlwind of emotions and challenges. Mariana faced the loneliness with her head held high, never giving up on her dreams. And as time passed, she realized that her life was beginning to shape itself in a way she never could have imagined. If it weren't for Lua, she probably would have been consumed by sadness, but instead she felt a growing strength, something inside her that pushed her forward, day after day. She knew she had lost Eduardo's support, but something inside her rose up, stronger than ever, the unconditional love for Lua. She would raise her daughter the best way she could, alone if necessary, but with a heart full of hope. In the first days after Eduardo left, Mariana felt lost. The pain of rejection was still very present, but she soon realized she wasn't truly alone. she had something stronger than anything else: her family. Her mother, Lourdes, was the first to arrive. With her heart heavy at seeing her daughter in such distress, Lourdes embraced Mariana tightly, as if trying to protect her from the whole world. "Daughter, you are not alone. We're here with you. Your father and I will always support you. No matter what happens, you have us," Lourdes said, her voice soft and full of tenderness. Mariana felt a huge sense of relief, as though a great weight had been lifted from her shoulders. Even though she didn't know how she would move forward, with the pregnancy and the challenges ahead, her mother's unconditional support felt like a light in the darkness. In the following days, her mother helped with everything. Lourdes took care of the daily household tasks, prepared meals, and accompanied Mariana to her medical appointments. Everything felt more bearable when her mother was around, offering the love and understanding that Mariana needed so much. Sometimes, all she needed was a hug or a comforting word, and her mother was always there, ready to give it. In addition to Lourdes, Mariana also had the support of her sister, Beatriz, who never failed to make her laugh during the toughest days. Beatriz always had words of encouragement, and when Mariana began to doubt herself, she reminded her of the strength she'd always had. "You've always been so determined, Mary. If anyone can face this and come out stronger, it's you," Beatriz said with that smile that Mariana loved. She knew that with her family by her side, no matter how hard things seemed, she would have the support she needed to keep going. Mariana's friends were also a crucial part of her support. Her friends Luana and Carla were always around, bringing laughter, distraction, and even practical help with preparations for the baby's arrival. They took turns accompanying her to medical appointments and even helped her organize the baby's nursery. When Mariana thought about how her life had changed so suddenly, the support of these incredible women was what made her believe that everything would be possible, even if the challenges seemed enormous. One afternoon, when the baby was starting to move more intensely, Lourdes sat next to Mariana and said, "You don't have to go through this alone, my daughter. What's past is past. Now, it's time to think about you and Lua, and we'll be with you every step of the way." These words from her mother resonated deeply in Mariana's heart. She felt grateful to have that support system, a net that helped her keep her head up when everything seemed to be falling apart around her. Her family wouldn't let her fall. They wouldn't allow her to drown in the pain. And with each passing day, she felt the pain of being abandoned by Eduardo begin to ease, replaced by the strength and affection she received from her family. Mariana knew that the road ahead would still be full of obstacles, but she was certain of one thing. No matter what happened, she wouldn't face anything alone again. She had the love of her family, and that was more powerful than anything. Her heart, even though bruised, was stronger than ever. She would be the best mother for Lua. And with the support of those who loved her, she knew she could overcome any challenge. Everything seemed to follow a slow and steady rhythm in the days after Eduardo's departure. Mariana focused on her pregnancy and her family, but there was something she didn't expect: the arrival of someone who would change her life in ways she could never have imagined. One day, while in the city center, Mariana entered a baby clothes store to buy some outfits for Lua. She was always amazed by the delicacy of the pieces, thinking about the daughter she was about to have. It was then that she met Ismail, a friendly and attentive salesperson who worked at the store. Ismail had a welcoming smile and seemed to know every detail about the clothes as if he had been made for that job. He greeted her kindly, and noticing that Mariana seemed a little distracted, he began to talk to her about the best choices for the baby. His eyes were calm, and his voice had a soothing quality that immediately made Mariana feel at ease. They talked for a few minutes about what Mariana was looking for, and soon she realized that Ismail was not just a salesperson, but someone with a life story that had also led him to be strong and understand the complexities of life. He shared that a few years ago he had lost his mother, and, since then, had started working with baby clothes, seeking a new purpose by involving himself with children in some way. The pain he felt from his grief was still there, but he used it as motivation to do something good. Mariana, moved by Ismail's story, felt a connection to him in an unexpected way. She, who had been facing so many challenges with her pregnancy and the abandonment by Eduardo, found someone who seemed to understand the pain and struggle she was going through. Their friendship began naturally and lightly, without rush, just simple conversations about everyday life. Ismail was always present and willing to help. He began to become a constant presence, visiting her occasionally, offering support with small tasks like carrying shopping bags or simply chatting about life. Little by little, Mariana realized that he was more than just a good friend. He was becoming a fundamental presence in her life, someone she could trust. Even though she didn't yet know what the future held, she started to see in Ismail someone who made her feel less alone. But what Mariana didn't know was that Ismail was also falling in love with her, even without showing it clearly. He had seen how strong and determined she was, facing the challenges of pregnancy without losing her smile. Ismail saw in Mariana something he still sought within himself, the ability to find light, even in moments of darkness. She, in turn, felt a connection that went beyond friendship. He supported her, listened to her, and made her laugh when everything seemed too heavy. However, Mariana was so focused on her journey as a mother that at first she didn't realize that, alongside Ismail, her life was transforming in ways she hadn't anticipated. Ismail began to be present more and more, and Mariana felt that, no matter how cruel the world had been to her, there was still hope. The friendship he offered was a balm for the pain she carried, and slowly he became an indispensable part of her life. As the days passed, the bond between Mariana and Ismail grew stronger naturally, as if destiny had, in some way, aligned the stars for them to meet. Their conversations became deeper, and their laughter more frequent. Every gesture from Ismail, from the small daily helps to the advice on what to buy for Lua, made Mariana feel more at ease and little by little, more secure in her new reality. Ismail started to visit Mariana's house more often, where she and her family were adjusting to the idea of the baby's arrival. He never sought to be the center of attention, but was always present, willing to lend a hand when necessary. Mariana began to notice that he was more interested than he seemed. He had a watchful gaze, something that made her feel cared for in a way that no one else could. His presence became comforting, almost like an anchor amidst the storm Mariana had faced. As each day passed, Ismail was by her side, ready to listen to her worries, help set up Lua's nursery, and even accompany her to some medical appointments. He cared about her, and that was something new and precious for Mariana. She was used to rejection, but Ismail seemed to be the person breaking down all the barriers of pain she carried. One afternoon, while assembling Lua's crib, Mariana looked at Ismail and said, with a shy smile, "You know, you've been such a big help. I never imagined I'd be this calm at this moment in my life, knowing I can count on someone." Ismail smiled back and, with a deep look, replied, "I'm just here to support you, Mariana. There's nothing special about it. Believe me, you're much stronger than you think, and Lua is lucky to have a mother like you." These words touched Mariana's heart, as she still struggled with insecurity about the future, about her ability to be a mother on her own. But Ismail, with his constant presence and silent support, was giving her the confidence she needed. Their bond grew stronger, and Mariana felt like she was building not just a friendship, but something much deeper. Sometimes she was surprised to realize that, by Ismail's side, she was feeling something she hadn't imagined being capable of feeling so soon after Eduardo's abandonment. The way he respected her, the way he cared about her and Lua, all of it made her heart, once full of fear and pain, now feel warm and full of hope. But Mariana also knew she was starting to feel differently. She felt an attraction toward him, a desire to be near him. However, she was afraid of her own feelings, as she was still processing the impact of her separation from Eduardo. She didn't want to rush, didn't want to act hastily, but Ismail's affection was something she couldn't ignore. Their relationship was unfolding patiently, without haste. Ismail made her feel safe without pressure, and because of that, she could relax and realize how special he was. She saw in him a quiet strength, a stability that she needed in her life, especially now that Lua was about to be born. Their relationship was building a solid foundation, and Mariana felt that her life was, little by little, adjusting to a new normal. She was starting to believe that maybe she could be happy again, and that this time, happiness didn't have to come from where she expected it. Ismail, without meaning to, had become an essential part of her life and Lua's. Hello, are you enjoying this beautiful story? Let's continue, but first I noticed that you haven't left a like on this video yet. This is really important so that YouTube continues to promote our content to you, and we can keep helping you. So, go ahead and give a like on this story. Thanks. Time passed quickly. Mariana's belly grew with each week, and along with it, the expectations and emotions about Lua's arrival. Now, Mariana no longer felt alone, and Ismail's presence became even more significant to her. He had always been by her side, offering unconditional support, and even though they hadn't openly discussed the future, she knew that something big was forming between them. It was a peaceful day when Mariana and Ismail decided to go for a walk in the park. Lua was almost ready to be born, and they were approaching the moment when they would finally meet the little girl. During the walk, while talking about simple things, the topic of Lua's name finally came up. Mariana still wasn't sure about the baby's name, though she had a few ideas. It was such an important decision for her, such a meaningful gesture, that she wanted to make the right choice. Ismail, as always, was her silent support. They walked side by side, and the conversation flowed naturally. What if we named her Lua? Ismail suddenly said, interrupting the comfortable silence between them. Mariana looked at him in surprise, and he continued, Lua brings light, hope, a new beginning. I know that with her name, you want something that connects her to all the strength you have inside of you. Mariana stopped walking for a moment, thinking about Ismail's words. He was right. The name Lua seemed to carry a special energy. The moon, with all its beauty and mystery, had always been a symbol of transformation, cycles, and rebirth. For Mariana, this name had a deep meaning, as if it were a light at the end of a dark tunnel, illuminating the path for her and her daughter. Lua. Mariana repeated aloud, as if testing the sound of the word. Yes, it's perfect. She looked at Ismail, and for the first time, a genuine smile of pure satisfaction spread across her face. You really understand what I want, don't you? Lua is the light I need, and with you by my side, I feel like I can be the best mother for her. Ismail smiled with a gleam in his eyes, feeling an even stronger connection with Mariana. The name Lua wasn't just a symbolic choice, but a reflection of the light he believed she and her daughter would bring to the world. He felt deeply happy to be part of such an intimate and meaningful moment for her. Lua's name was chosen with love, and as the soft wind rustled the leaves of the trees around them, Mariana felt that, in some way, the universe was conspiring in her favor. She was no longer alone, and with Ismail by her side, she felt more secure to face the next steps of her journey as a mother. As they walked back home, Mariana thought about the future, about how the name Lua represented everything she wanted for her daughter. A life illuminated by love, hope, and freedom. And she knew that, despite the difficulties, Lua would be a child surrounded by light, love, and now, a promising future. The day Mariana and Ismail decided on Lua's name was a milestone in their journey together. The connection between the two was growing stronger, and something in their hearts was already clear. Ismail wasn't just there as a friend or a temporary support. He wanted to be part of Mariana's life in a deeper and more genuine way. He felt that, by her side, he could build something far more meaningful. It was a peaceful afternoon, and the couple was at home, in a simple yet cozy environment, surrounded by preparations for Lua's arrival. Mariana was organizing some baby clothes that Ismail had helped pick out, while he arranged some furniture and accessories for Lua's nursery. The atmosphere in the air was one of calmness and, at the same time, anticipation. Lua was almost here, and with her what seemed to be the beginning of a new chapter. Ismail stopped what he was doing and looked at Mariana with a serious yet gentle expression. She, sensing the intensity of his gaze, also paused from organizing the clothes and met his eyes, curious. Mariana, he began, his voice firm but full of affection. I know you've been facing so many things alone. I know how hard this has been. But I want to tell you something I've been feeling in my heart. I want to be by your side, forever. I want to be more than just someone who helps you. I want to be someone you can count on, in every moment. I love you. Ismail's words echoed in the room, and Mariana felt her heart race. It wasn't just a declaration of love. It was the confirmation that he wanted to build a life with her, sincerely and truly. Ismail was asking for something that she wasn't sure she could give so easily, but deep down, her heart already longed for it. He wanted more than just to be a support. He wanted to be the person Mariana would choose to share every moment of life with. He wanted to be Lua's father, in every sense. Mariana remained silent for a few seconds, trying to process Ismail's words. It was clear to her that he loved her, and more so, that he was willing to give everything of himself to build a family. She looked at him, seeing the sincerity in his eyes, and felt a wave of emotions. Perhaps at the beginning, she had resisted any deeper connection after Eduardo's abandonment, but Ismail had proven to be different. He was by her side not out of obligation, but out of genuine love, and, more importantly, he was there for Lua as well. With her eyes shining with emotion, Mariana took a step toward him, and with a soft smile, said, "Ismail, you are everything Lua and I need. I love you too, and I want you to be part of our lives not just now, but forever." And it was in that moment that she surrendered to what her heart had already known. She was ready to build something with him. The bond between them, which had formed gradually, was now turning into something more solid, more profound. Mariana no longer wanted to hide her feelings, and more than that, she knew that Ismail's love wasn't just a source of comfort, but the key to a future full of hope and promises. Ismail smiled at Mariana's response, and as he moved closer to her, embraced her lovingly. "So, Mariana, what do you say we make this official? Will you be my girlfriend?" The question was simple, but filled with deep meaning. He wanted to be more than just a friend or a temporary support. He wanted to be part of her life and Lua's, in a definitive way. Mariana looked at him, feeling a happiness she didn't know she could still experience. "Yes, Ismail, I want to be your girlfriend." And in that embrace, she felt that what was to come would be a future full of love, care, and finally, stability. The decision to take this step wasn't just Mariana's, it was a decision from both of them. They were ready to walk together, without fear, facing the challenges of the future, knowing they could count on each other. Their love, which had once been just an idea, was now a tangible reality. The big day finally arrived. It was a serene morning, with the sun slowly rising, illuminating the room where Mariana was, accompanied by Ismail. Lua was about to be born, and the nervousness and anxiety were visible, but the feeling of expectation in the air was equally filled with joy. Mariana was surrounded by care, and Ismail, who had supported her at every step of her journey up to that moment, was now by her side, holding her hand firmly and tenderly. The pain of the contractions made Mariana writhe, but she had never felt so supported and secure. Ismail never left her side for a moment, speaking words of encouragement, kissing her forehead, and telling her everything would be okay. With every contraction, he was there, easing her pain with his presence. He was no longer just Mariana's boyfriend. He was now the man who would actively participate in Lua's birth, the man who had chosen to be a part of her life and her daughter's life. In the hospital, the atmosphere was filled with natural tension, but also with a unique energy. Mariana felt Ismail's strength by her side, and that made her feel more prepared for what was to come. When the doctor entered and said it was time to begin, the room became quieter, and everyone focused on that significant moment. Mariana took a deep breath. Tears began to fall from her face. Not out of fear, but because of the intensity of the moment. She was about to give birth to her daughter, a child who represented everything she had gone through and everything still to come. Lua, her light, was about to be born. With one final push and much effort, Mariana finally felt relief. The sound of Lua's cry filled the room, and in that instant, the whole world seemed to stop. She heard that cry so full of life, and a smile of happiness took over her face. That was the sound of her new reality, of her new beginning. Ismail, with tears in his eyes, cut the umbilical cord and, as he handed Lua to Mariana, spoke in a trembling voice, but full of love. "She's perfect, Mariana. She's our Lua." Mariana looked at Ismail, and for a moment, there were no words that could express everything she was feeling. The love she felt for Ismail and Lua in that moment was indescribable. She knew that, Despite all the difficulties they had faced, this moment was a reflection of how loved she was and how much she loved. Lua, her daughter, was the manifestation of all her strength and all the sacrifices made until then. Time seemed to stretch as Mariana and Ismail gazed into each other's eyes, sharing a deep connection, without needing to say anything. Lua's birth not only brought a new life into the world, but also brought a renewal of hope for the two of them. Mariana knew that, despite life's ups and downs, this was the moment she had been waiting for. A new family, built with love and dedication. Lua was the living proof that everything could work out, that with the right support and true love, life could blossom even through adversity. Little Lua, with her curious eyes still taking in the world, was now in her mother's arms, and Ismail was by her side, ready to face whatever came their way, together. And the best part, they had each other, forever. The days following Lua's birth were filled with adjustments, new lessons, and many changes. Mariana, now holding her daughter in her arms and with Ismail by her side, began to realize that her life would never be the same. But in a wonderful way. Ismail, who had always been there as a great support, now had an even more important role. He was no longer just a boyfriend or friend. He was the father figure that Lua deserved. The house, which once seemed so quiet, was now filled with laughter, cries, and the soft sounds of a baby being lovingly cared for. Ismail helped with the little things, from changing diapers to bathing Lua. He was fully committed to this new routine, and Mariana, though tired, couldn't be happier to have him by her side. It was one summer afternoon, while they were on the couch, Lua sleeping peacefully in the crib next to them, that Ismail became certain of what he wanted for the future. He looked at Mariana with a gaze full of love and hope. "Mariana," he began softly, "I know our path to this point hasn't been easy, but I also know I don't want to live without you and Lua anymore. I want to create a real family, with you and our daughter. I want to be the father Lua deserves, and the partner you deserve. Will you marry me?" Mariana, who until that moment had been completely absorbed in the whirlwind of emotions from motherhood, was quiet for a moment, processing Ismail's words. She felt a wave of affection for him, stronger than she had ever imagined. He had been by her side, supporting her every step of the way, with patience, love, and dedication. She felt, deep in her heart, that there was no one better for her and Lua than Ismail. With tears of happiness in her eyes, she looked at Ismail and, smiling, responded, "Yes, Ismail. I accept being your wife. I want to build a life by your side, with Lua, with love, and with hope." At that moment, their future became clear. They weren't just creating a family together. They were rebuilding their lives, turning every difficulty into an opportunity to grow and learn together. For the first time in a long time, Mariana felt that everything that had happened in her life had a purpose. The suffering, the disappointments, the struggles, all of it had brought her to this moment, and now she had a family that had chosen each other. The wedding preparations began quickly, but the most important thing had already been done. They were united, stronger than ever, ready to face whatever came their way, together. Ismail was determined to be the man that Lua and Mariana needed, and he was ready to be the pillar of strength, love, and stability that both of them deserved. The wedding ceremony, simple but full of emotion, took place a few months later in a blooming garden. Lua, now a few months old, was in Mariana's arms, while Ismail stood by her side, with a smile on his face. In that moment, when Ismail placed the ring on Mariana's finger and she did the same for him, they officially sealed their union, and the promise to build a life as a family. The celebration was a mix of laughter, tears of joy, and the soft sound of Lua giggling, as if she already knew that, on that day, a new chapter of her life was beginning. She was lucky to have two people who loved her unconditionally, who would be by her side to guide and protect her, no matter what happened. Mariana looked at Ismail, and he looked at her, and in that instant, they both knew that nothing would ever separate them again. What they were creating together was stronger than any obstacle, deeper than any fear. They had found each other amidst adversity, and now they were ready to build an entire life of love, unity, and happiness. Lua, with her bright little eyes, was about to grow up in a home filled with affection, where family bonds were made by choice, not just by blood. And for all of them, This was the true definition of family. As the months went by, Mariana felt stronger than ever. Her life, which once seemed full of uncertainties and challenges, was now filled with light. Every smile from Lua, every gesture of affection from Ismael brought a deep sense of gratitude to Mariana's heart. She never imagined that after so much suffering she could find such complete happiness. But here she was, with her little family, living a love that seemed invincible. Sometimes, she would stop and reflect on everything that had happened. How had she gotten here? How, after being rejected, alone, and lost, did she find the strength to keep going? She looked at Lua, who was now 1 year old, and thought about how she had been the guiding light through the darkness. Lua was the reason for everything, the reason why she didn't give up. And then she looked at Ismael, and knew he was the person who helped her rebuild her life, not just with words, but with daily acts of love and support. Ismael had been the pillar during a time when she needed it most, the partner she never knew she was looking for. Mariana remembered all the hard days, the moments when she thought she wouldn't be able to do it. She was afraid of being a single mother, afraid of not being enough, afraid of raising Lua alone without Orlando's support. But over time she realized that what she truly needed wasn't a perfect partner, but someone who loved her, who would be there no matter what happened. And that was what she found in Ismael. He wasn't perfect, but he was perfect for her. He wasn't the man she had imagined at the beginning, but he became the man she needed. In the quietest moments, when Lua was sleeping in her arms or playing in the garden, Mariana felt a deep peace inside. She knew she had made the right decisions. Looking at her daughter, she thought, "I fought for you, Lua. I loved you from the moment I knew you were inside me. I did what I had to do to give you the life you deserve." She knew that Lua was growing up in a home full of love and dedication, and that made her feel incredibly grateful. But it wasn't only the memories that brought gratitude to Mariana. The present was also a blessing. She knew that, even amidst the daily challenges of motherhood and life together, her family was built on something solid. It wasn't a structure of fanciful dreams, but a real foundation made of love, respect, and mutual effort. She saw this in the way Ismael cared for Lua, how he supported her in every decision, and how he always made her feel valued. He was the man with whom she shared all her joys and frustrations, the man who showed her that true love goes beyond words, translating into daily actions. And so, in one of these reflective moments, Mariana sat in the garden with Ismael, watching Lua play with some flowers. The soft wind caressed their faces, and for a moment everything seemed calm and perfect. She looked at Ismael and, with a gentle smile, said, "I never imagined my life would take this turn, but I am so grateful for every step I've taken to get here. And you taught me to see the beauty in all the difficulties." Ismael looked her in the eyes, with a soft expression full of love. "I just did what anyone would do, Mariana. I love you, and I love our daughter. And that's all I need to be happy." Mariana felt a lump in her chest. She knew she had been through difficult times, but she also knew that now she had a family who truly loved her. She looked at Lua and saw the little girl playing with an innocent smile, unaware of the struggles her mother had faced to bring her into the world. Lua was growing up in a home full of love, and that was the most important thing. Life sometimes gives us the toughest challenges, but it is in the most unexpected moments that we find strength within ourselves. Mariana now knew that true love can arise when we least expect it, and that family is not defined only by blood ties, but by the capacity to love and care for one another. And so, amidst laughter, play, and so much love, Mariana understood that the path she had walked, with all its difficulties and obstacles, was what had led her to true happiness. She was no longer the woman who felt alone and abandoned. Now she was a mother, a partner, a fulfilled woman, and above all, grateful. Grateful for everything she had lived, for everything she had, and for everything that was yet to come. She knew the future would be bright for her, for Ismael, and for Lua. Their life at last was what she had always dreamed of, a life full of love, unity, and the certainty that, together, they would be unbeatable. What did you think of this story? Leave a comment and mention the part you liked the most. Thank you for watching until the end. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the upcoming exciting videos. See you in the next story.